and welcome to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about their recently released books. Hello, I'm Jenny, and welcome to the Author Roundup. Today, we're diving into the gripping world of Gem, a psychological thriller that takes us deep into the mind and soul of a woman navigating trauma, betrayal, and the struggle to reclaim herself. Joining us is Shanteria Aycha'e, the author behind this raw and unflinching book, who writes stories that act as mirrors, reflecting the emotions and struggles we often can't put into words. Let's give a warm welcome to Shanteria Aycha'e, author of Gem. Hi, Shanteria. It's so great to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to talk to you about your book. I'm very excited. So, Shanteria, you open Gem with a very bold declaration. So, you start with, I am fire. Why begin the story this way? And what does fire symbolize for Gem throughout the book?
I chose to start the story this way because this is a point in Jim's life where she's realizing that she can't ignore things and expect them to disappear. In order for her to understand the fire, she must confront the flames of this fire, and the fire represents her transformation that she's undergoing. For her to shed this old identity of herself, to shed this person that she pretended to be, that's the only way for her to become who she's always wanted to be, which is essentially her true self.
I see. And it's a very gripping way to start your book. So the novel reads like a psychological thriller told in poetry. So why do I say that? Because it's fragmented, it's very intimate, and cinematic. So what drew you to that narrative style?
I chose this narrative style specifically because it is a way for me to portray Jim more closely to the reader. She processes things in a very broken way. She processes things in pieces, which is a reflection of her reality. As you mentioned, it is fragmented, so that's how she's mentally processing things. Intimate because she is taking everything personally, everything that's happening to her, she's holding it close to her heart. And this is also done to show her emotional capacity and her emotional depth. And cinematic because I don't really want readers to simply read her world. I want them to see it, I want them to feel it, and I want them to be able to experience the emotional undercurrents of every moment that she's experiencing.
And you did a very good job in doing that.
Thank you.
How much of Gem's story would you consider real versus imagined? Or did you intentionally blur that so that it's up to the reader to interpret how much is real, how much is imagined?
Yes, that line is intentionally blurred. I realize most of the time through life, we prefer to tell ourselves things, whether it's true or not, as a way to console ourselves during hard times, as a way to survive, or, simply understand the pain that we're going through. And I chose to blur this line as a way for the reader to look at their own life as a reflection because as I said, we do prefer to sometimes lie to ourselves about what our reality is rather than taking it at face value.
I see. So along with that, um, Jem as the main character of the story is such a layered character. So she's soft, she's sharp, she's witty, and then sometimes even terrifying. How did you develop her character?
I took pieces of my own personality and kind of put them into her.
Okay.
Externally, I do appear to be soft. Internally, my mind, my thoughts are sharp, they're strong. I'm witty, I'm extremely observant. And as far as the terrifying trait goes, I feel like we all have intrusive thoughts that are often left unsaid. And I wanted to make sure I left space within this story for that side to come through. A lot of people like to pretend that this side of them doesn't exist, and this was a way for me to show that it's okay that this side exists. And in order to continue down a healing road, you have to acknowledge and accept this part of you as well.
Mhm. How about Gem's alter-like states? Are these alter-like states inspired by psychological research or just literary creative references?
I would say more so creative references. I wanted to write her physical sensations, her emotional and mental experiences in a way that did make them believable. But these experiences were written from my truth. These were things that did happen. So it wasn't, I realized that when I was editing these parts of the story, I didn't need to really add anything to them because they held weight on their own.
I see. So, Shanteria, you also mentioned about healing earlier. I think that's a very strong message of the book. Gem's story moves through memory gaps, flashbacks, and emotional landmines. All of these are marks of deep, unspoken trauma, right? How did you write those moments with honesty and care without actually sensationalizing them?
I was going through kind of a dark time in my life when I started to write this story. So the things that I put into the novel they're real. The emotions are real, the feelings are real, the thoughts are real. And again, when I was editing these parts, I realized I didn't need to add anything to them because they're real experiences. They were heavy enough on their own, and I didn't really feel the need to sensationalize them because I believe it's a universal experience when you're going through something tough, when you're going through hard times, that these natural emotions, they do arise. These thoughts, these natural thoughts, they do arise within everyone.
Right. And also, one thing that I notice about the story is that there's no clear villain.
Mhm.
Instead, you would see a system of silencing, gaslighting, and emotional control. Was that an intentional choice, or what did you want readers to feel from it?
That was definitely an intentional choice. Rarely in life do we have one specific villain. There's never really just one face or one person to blame. Most of the time, it is a system that would be seen as the villain. Beliefs trickle down, trauma trickles down, generational trauma trickles down. The saying that hurt people is a real thing. And I want the reader to take from what I want the reader to take from this is that when you experience people in your lives or you come across people in your lives who hurt you, they're not always intentionally setting out to hurt you. Sometimes that's just all they've been conditioned to do or conditioned to believe. So that's how they're going to continue to come across.
Mhm. And also, um, what Jem goes through doesn't follow your typical healing arc. There's no tidy ending or clear redemption. What do you hope readers understand about healing when it's messy, when it's non-linear, or when it's still a work in progress?
I feel like you said it right there that healing is messy. The best way I can explain it is that it often resembles a roller coaster. Some days you feel like you're on top of the world. Other days you may feel like you're crawling, barely making it to the finish line. And I've learned that healing isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about who you are in these moments where you feel like you just want to give it up and not continue, not try, not push forward. It's about building resilience and building strength within yourself.
That's a very strong message right there, Shantiria. Um, this time, let's look into your experience as you were writing the book. What books, perhaps, or songs, films, or personal experiences help shape the tone and voice of Gem?
It was mainly personal experiences. I would say it was my past memories, my intuition, and parts of myself that I had to accept and acknowledge that are often told to ignore altogether that created the voice and the tone of Jim.
I see. So it's really very personal. This book is really very personal to you. How long did
Yes.
it take you to finish your book, and what challenges did you face while writing it?
It took me around, I would say 10 to 12 months to finish writing the book. And the struggle that I faced when writing it was feeling like writing versus thinking I had to write. So it was a balance that I had to learn or work on within myself. Wanting to write or thinking I had to write or setting these goals or these expectations on myself, like having to write 3 chapters this month or edit this many chapters this month versus allowing the story to come through me and flow through me was definitely something I had to learn to work on.
Mhm. So how did you manage that? Like you said that sometimes you don't have the motivation to write and all that. How did you, just get over that part?
I would say the chapters I wrote from thinking I had to write, when I would go back and edit them, they just didn't feel good. And I didn't want this story to be rushed. I didn't want the book to be rushed. So, from the point where I realized the chapters that I wrote from thinking I had to write, that they were essentially not good, I had to start from the beginning. So, it was maybe 6 to 7 chapters in the middle of the book that I had to scrap and start all over. And I knew I didn't want to go through that again. So I started to allow myself the time and the space to simply feel what I wanted to write.
So you really have to have that drive and that motivation.
Yes.
So was there a particular scene or chapter that was especially difficult for you to write, either emotionally or structurally?
Emotionally, I would say any chapter that brings up the relationship between Jim and her mother
Mhm.
was harder for me to write because this was something that is written from my truth. It was one thing for me to come to that conclusion on my own internally about the relationship between me and my mom, not being as close as I would have liked or not having certain relationships that other mother daughters do have. And it was another thing to actually write this down and to edit it over and over and reread it over and over and then to publish it and release it into the world. That took courage versus me being honest with myself.
Right. Because it's very personal to you.
Yes.
Mhm. And your book has been out for a few months now. I'm sure a lot of people have read your book. What was the most memorable feedback or review that you've received about your book?
The most memorable feedback that I've received about my book thus far would have to be how I was able to encompass such a important life lesson while also allowing the book to be as entertaining as it was. On the surface, the book may seem to be about a girl who was lied to about who she is or about her past. And while trying to figure out who she really is, she's having to battle this darker side of her and come across people who told her these lies, who she's built this life upon. And underneath that, it's really about growth. It's really about healing. It's really about transformation. It's really about pushing past societal expectations or family dynamics or generational trauma in order to get to who you really are.
Mhm. And that must have felt amazing, right? To be able to hear it
Yes.
from your readers that the message that you wanted to get across is something that they have received very well.
Yes, that it landed.
You're right. And so you've already published a book, and I'm sure that you've learned a lot from it. What advice would you give to writers working on their first book?
I would say to find what works for you. Be intentional, find your voice, find the pace, anything that resonates with you, anything that is written from your truth, your emotional truth will hit harder than thinking that you have to meet these self-posed expectations because, like I said before, it would be better to write from truth or feeling good about what you're writing versus things that you are just simply writing to meet this personal mental goal of yours.
So, Shanteria, what's next for you after publishing Gem? Are you working on other books or creative projects? What are your personal and professional book goals this year?
This year, to start off, my personal book goal would be to continue to push Jim, to continue to get my face out there, and to continue to build a community for people who resonate with the story of Jim. And my professional book goals would be to probably release the second installment of Jim. I do want to continue building on her character, building on her life, building her universe, so to say. And I feel like there are other creative projects I'm working on, but I'm not sure where those will necessarily fit in just yet.
We're very excited about the second installment that you mentioned. We're hoping to see that soon. Okay, so what do you hope readers carry with them after finishing this book, especially those who have lived through trauma, gaslighting, or identity loss?
I would say it's really all about you. I know people like to say that the world doesn't revolve around you, but I like to think that it does. I feel like your perception literally is your reality. The way that you think, the way that you feel about yourself and about those around you or the situations around you shapes the world around you. And you need to be okay with yourself, and being okay with yourself in turn will allow you to carry love, happiness, and peace into every relationship that you encounter. And I feel like that's something that we are often missing in this world is just genuine love for each other, peace, and happiness.
Very powerful message to everyone tuned in. Before we close, Shanteria, please let our viewers and listeners know how they can connect with you. You said that you have like your social media account, and then let them know where they can get a copy of your book.
So currently I am active on TikTok. My handle is Aycha Ashe. And a copy of my book is available at Barnes and Noble. It's available on Amazon and it is available on the Archway website.
Hey, thank you, Shantiria, for joining us today and giving us a glimpse into the world of Gem. Your book takes readers beyond suspense and drama into the raw realities of trauma, survival, and self discovery. And to all our viewers and listeners, if you want to dive into this gripping psychological thriller, be sure to check out Gem by Shanteria Aycha'e. It's available in paperback, hardcover, and ebook formats on Amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, Archway Publishing's online bookstore, and of course, other major resellers. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We'll see you in the next episode of the Author Roundup.